Hello all, we are going to learn about electric charges and fields. This chapter is very important because understanding what electric charges are, how they respond towards the environment, and the basic phenomena exhibited by the electric charges is very important for you to understand what electricity is all about. So let us first understand what electric charges are. The initial ideas about the charge originated when people started rubbing different objects. Let us first consider a cloth and a rod. The rod and the cloth are said to be uncharged because our initial assumption is that every object is neutral. That is, they have both positive as well as negative charges in equal quantities. Only then will they cancel each other and become neutral. What happens when you rub two different objects? When the cloth and the rod was rubbed, what we observed was one of these charges, it can either be the positive or the negative charge, one of these charges moved towards one object while the other charge moved into the other object. In this case, the cloth got the minus charge and the rod got the positive charge. The minus charge is called as the negative charge and the plus charge is called as the positive charge. When either of these objects were brought close to an uncharged lightweight object, it was observed that that lightweight object got attracted towards the cloth or the rod. This experiment is very similar with the one that you have observed in school, wherein which you used a scale, rubbed it on your hair, and you observed lightweight objects getting attracted to it. You called it by the name static electricity. Static meaning stationary, meaning the charges are not moving. Very similar to what we have seen here. Now, by this method, what we have done is, we have made an uncharged object into a charged object. So, by the method of rubbing, we can make an object a charged object. And this method by which we charge an object is called as charging by friction. Why friction? Because rubbing involves friction. Let us now go into our next topic. Is there any other method by which we can charge objects? If this method is called as charging by friction, there is another method called charging by induction. Let us understand how we can charge an object by induction. Induction mainly involves charging the object without bringing it in physical contact with some other object. Let us consider two spherical balls. These balls are initially said to have neutral charge, meaning they have equal quantities of positive and negative charges. When we bring a charged rod in close proximity with the balls, what we observe is the charge that is opposite with the one that is present in the rod will get attracted towards the rod. In this case, this rod has a positive charge. Because this rod has a positive charge, the negative charges in these two balls got attracted and came close to the rod. These negative charges are not capable of moving from the ball into the rod. Why? Because they are not in contact. So they won't move into the rod, but they will come close to the rod. Now, because these two balls are in contact, the negative charges from both these balls will move and show a higher concentration in this side of ball A. Next, what we do is, Keeping the rod in the same position, we separate these two balls. So because all the negative charge has moved into ball A, this ball will show a positive charge and this ball will show a negative charge. Now suppose if we were to remove this rod, what happens is, because this ball is negatively charged and this ball is positively charged, those two charges will now begin to attract each other. That is, the negative charge present in this side will now move towards this side. Why? Because this rod is no longer present and the positive charge is present in now this ball. So what happens is, the negative charges from this side will move and try to attract and come to this side, while the positive charges will also move from here and come to this side, thus bringing in attractive forces between these two balls. Now if you were to separate them further, these charges will now, rather than being concentrated on one side, will spread out uniformly into this complete ball. That is what happened here. So what did we do? First, we brought a charged rod towards it. The charges got separated and then we separated the ball, removed the rod and then separated the balls further. This ball is now negatively charged and this ball is now positively charged. This is another method by which you can charge objects. There is one more method by which you can charge objects. That method is called as charging by means of conduction. Here what we do is, we bring an object that is already charged. Suppose we are bringing a rod. We'll consider a rod. This rod has a positive charge and we will bring into contact with this rod another object that has no charge. Consider another rod. This rod has a neutral charge because this rod was not rubbed with any cloth, while this rod was rubbed. Therefore this rod has a positive charge and this rod has a neutral charge. So when the neutral charged ball was brought in contact with this positively charged ball, the positive charge moved from this rod into this rod. Thereby we can say that this rod got charged. So this method of charging an object is called charging by conduction, wherein which you charged an object by bringing it into contact with a charged object. A neutral object was charged by bringing it into contact with a charged object. This is charging by conduction. So, what are the different ways in which an object can be charged? The different ways of charging an object are as follows: charging by friction, charging by conduction, and charging by induction. These are the three methods which we have explained in very high detail. Now, how do we know if an object is charged? How do we know if the cloth that I have with me is a charged cloth or an uncharged cloth? For understanding this, we have an instrument, and that instrument is called as a gold leaf electroscope. This is a schematic drawing of a gold leaf electroscope. If you want to see the actual object, it looks something like this. Let us move and understand the schematic drawing. The gold leaf electroscope is very simple to understand. It consists of a rod, and at the end of the rod you have two gold leaves. And this entire arrangement is enclosed in a box so that the movement of air will not interfere with the indications shown by the gold leaves. Let us now understand how this object works. Suppose the pen that I have with me is a charged pen. That is, I rubbed this pen with this cloth and I have now charged this pen. If I were to bring this charged pen in contact with the top side of the metal rod, what will happen here is, this pen, suppose this pen has a positive charge. If I bring it in contact with this metal rod, by the method of conduction, the positive charges from this pen will move into this rod. It will not only move, it will travel through this rod and reach the gold leaves. These gold leaves are placed parallel to one another. This positive charge will move in equal quantities to both the gold. So here what we'll observe is, because these two gold leaves have the same charge, they will repel each other and these gold leaves will move away from each other. That is the indication that the object that I have brought in contact is a charged object. If I were to bring an uncharged object, this phenomenon will not be observed. This is how we can understand whether an object is charged or not. This is your first section. I've attached an assignment. Please do that assignment and submit it within tomorrow. Thank you.